course, in addition, while this is going on, meanwhile, we're having all these tax cuts at the top. And these tax cuts for the rich have really impoverished our public programs and our public services. And you see this particularly in the case of, let's say, hospitals and universities, which are key institutions in our society. And increasingly, as taxes have been cut back, they have to rely on philanthropy. You know, instead of getting regular income through the tax system, they have to kind of go cap in hand to the rich and, you know, hope that they'll donate. And to some extent, the rich are donating. They're donating quite a bit. But, you know, it raises an interesting question, because some people will say, well, what does it matter as long as the rich are paying, whether they pay through the tax system or pay through philanthropy? What does it matter? Well, I would argue it matters a great deal. You know, because if they pay through their taxes, then the public decides what to do with the money. And that is the essence of democracy. Collectively raising money and collectively deciding how we will spend it, what our priorities are, what kind of society we want to live in. Whereas if the rich contribute through philanthropy, they make the decisions. And by the way, they tend to contribute mostly to, you know, like their alma mater, you know, their favorite hospital. They're notable for making very little in the way of contributions to things like community centers in poorer parts of town. I mean, what's the point of having your name on a building where none of your friends are going to be driving by? and of course, the other thing is, when the rich contribute through philanthropy, they have an enormous power. They get enormous control, much more than we realize. And I would argue this is particularly important within our universities, which after all must be preserved as places, you know, where we can have critical inquiry, where we can, you know, hold up the conventional wisdom and the status quo and the standard way of thinking, and hold those ideas up and scrutinize them carefully. But how can we do that if our universities are so heavily dependent on the very people that are at the top of the status quo for resources? Let me just give you one quick example. You probably all heard of Peter Monk. He's the head of Barrick Gold, the biggest gold mining company in the world. Well, he recently gave a gift of $35 million to the University of Toronto to create the Monk School of Global Affairs. Well, okay, I got a contract. I mentioned the contract between Monk and U of T. And it's quite striking because it shows how much influence Monk actually has over that school. It shows, for instance, that the head of the school must report to the Monk Board of Directors. Okay? Now I ask you, what kind of school of global affairs will it be like that? You know, can we expect the professors and the students at that Monk School of Global Affairs to, for instance, let's say, study the potential problems of multinational mining companies operating in the global economy? And we expect that, and I can tell you that is not the kind of research that's going on at the Monk School. And one other thing I cannot resist mentioning, because I saw the contract, and that is that the contract, believe it or not, also specifies that the front door of the Monk School, which is housed in this beautiful mansion on the U of T campus, the front door will be reserved exclusively for the use of senior faculty and guests of the school. And it goes on to say the rest, that is students, junior faculty, and the public, and by the way, the public ends up paying most of the costs of the school through their tax dollars. But the students, the junior faculty, and the public, according to this document signed by Monk and U of T, will will be required to enter by the back door. I kid you not. I mean, this is a vision of inequality, of elitism, of privilege. It's a repulsive vision. What can I say? But I actually want to leave you with something more enlightening or more encouraging, more empowering. And that is, I want to leave you with the knowledge that despite all the business propaganda out there, which is considerable, the simple truth is Canadians actually care a great deal about equality and social justice, and they care a great deal about preserving Canada's social programs. Sure, if you ask them, would you like a tax cut? Would you like some chocolate? Would you like some ice cream? Would you like a tax cut? Sure, if you ask them like that, yeah, they would. But if you ask a more thoughtful question, as some of the more sophisticated polling firms do, would you like a tax cut, or would you like to have your tax dollars invested in improving health care, education, pensions, those kind of programs? You know what you find? You find that by margins over 80% typically, Canadians support social reinvestment. Now, I realize that may not be the impression that you get from reading the media. From reading the media, in fact, you get a very different impression. You get the impression that everybody out there is suffering from tax rage, right? But you know what? I want to tell you something. Almost nobody is suffering from tax rage. Only a very, very small group of Canadians are suffering from tax rage. And I'm going to identify that group for you right now. That group is rich, older men. And it's time we demanded that this be a more equal country. It's time we demanded that this be a country where everyone enters by the front door. Thank you.